California Governor Gavin Newsom has set political circles on fire once again after his latest revelation sent shockwaves through Washington and reportedly left key figures in Donald Trump's inner circle scrambling to respond. The revelation, which came during a live interview and was quickly amplified by national media outlets, has become the latest flashpoint in an already volatile political atmosphere as both parties brace for the next stage of the presidential battle. Newsom's calculated remarks were not a random outburst, but a strategically delivered statement intended to expose what he described as deep hypocrisy and hidden agendas within Trump's White House. His comments came as Trump and his team were attempting to project unity and control ahead of several critical events, but Newsom's intervention disrupted that narrative entirely. According to sources close to the governor, his decision to go public was motivated by what he called an urgent need for transparency and accountability in a system he believes has been corrupted by fear and loyalty to one man rather than to the Constitution. The interview began calmly with standard questions about California's economic performance and wildfire response, but quickly shifted when Newsom was asked about the increasing tension between state and federal policies under Trump's leadership. Newsom leaned forward and in a tone of signaled confidence rather than hesitation he stated that there were ongoing discussions within federal agencies that directly contradicted the public statements made by Trump's advisors. He accused several unnamed White House officials of knowingly misleading the public about critical issues ranging from national security briefings to federal funding allocations. The moment the statement aired, social media erupted with speculation and analysis as journalists and political commentators tried to piece together which specific officials Newsom was referencing. Within minutes, the White House communications team reportedly went into crisis mode, attempting to draft a response that would neutralize the growing firestorm. Multiple insiders revealed that Trump himself was furious upon hearing about the segment and demanded to know who had briefed Newsom or whether someone from inside the administration had leaked sensitive information. The possibility of an internal leak has since become a major concern, with several aides now being questioned about recent conversations they may have had with state-level officials. The tension between the Trump team and state leaders like Newsom has long been documented, but this latest confrontation has added a new layer of mistrust and unpredictability. Analysts noted that Newsom's revelation was particularly damaging because it challenged the credibility of Trump's most loyal aides. For months, the former president's team has been pushing a message of total control and strategic precision, insisting that every policy and public statement is part of a unified plan. Newsom's comments, however, painted a very different picture, one of disorganization, internal conflict and suppressed dissent within the administration. Political strategist Mark Feldman described the situation as a ticking time bomb, saying that Newsom has effectively peeled back a layer of secrecy that Trump cannot easily recover. The fear now among Trump's advisors is that other governors or federal insiders may follow Newsom's leaden start, exposing further contradictions between what the White House says publicly and what it does behind closed doors. Newsom's allies argue that his move is not about politics, but about protecting democratic principles. They point out that as governor he has a constitutional obligation to speak out when federal actions threaten state stability or mislead the public. During the same interview, Newsom emphasized that the American people deserve truth, not curated narratives designed to manipulate perception. His tone was firm and deliberate, making it clear that he was willing to take political heat for speaking out. That declaration resonated strongly with many voters across party lines, particularly those frustrated with the growing sense that political elites on both sides operate under different rules than ordinary citizens. In California, the reaction was swift and mixed. Supporters praised Newsom for standing up to what they view as authoritarian tendencies, while critics accused him of grandstanding and exploiting the media spotlight for his own national ambitions. Political observers have long speculated that Newsom harbors presidential aspirations, and this latest episode only fuels the speculation. By positioning himself as a truth-teller willing to confront Trump directly, he has effectively cemented his role as one of the leading figures in the Democratic Party's post-Biden era. Some insiders suggest that Newsom's statements were not just about the current administration, but part of the broader strategy to shape the ideological direction of the party itself, moving it toward a more aggressive counter-narrative to the right's populist rhetoric. Trump's camp has not remained silent. Within hours of Newsom's remarks, several Trump allies launched coordinated media appearances aimed at discrediting the governor's credibility. They accused him of fabricating stories to distract from California's internal challenges, including homelessness, crime rates, and economic disparities. Trump himself reportedly took to private channels to call Newsom a political opportunist who was desperate for national attention. However, sources inside the White House confirmed that there was visible unease among some senior officials, particularly those who feared that Newsom might actually have documentation or corroborating sources for his claims. The lack of immediate clarity only deepened the perception that there may indeed be more truth to his statements than the administration was willing to admit. Meanwhile, Democratic leaders have largely rallied behind Newsom. Several prominent senators and governors echoed his call for transparency and accountability, demanding that federal officials release certain internal reports to verify or disprove his claims. The resulting debate has drawn significant public interest, with major news networks dedicating extensive airtime to the issue. Cable pundits from both sides have turned the revelation into the latest ideological battleground, each interpreting Newsom's comments through their partisan lens. Conservatives argue that the California governor is undermining national unity, while liberals counter that he is fulfilling his moral duty to expose deception at the highest levels of power. As the media frenzy grows, the real impact of Newsom's revelation is becoming clearer. Beyond the political theater, it has forced both parties to confront uncomfortable questions about the integrity of government communication. Trust in official statements has been eroding for years, and incidents like this only accelerate that decline. For Trump's White House, the timing could not be worse. With multiple investigations and electoral pressures already mounting, the last thing his team needed was a high-profile Democratic governor accusing them of deception on live television. Every new headline amplifies the perception of internal chaos, and every unanswered question feeds public skepticism. Political historians are already comparing this moment to previous instances where state leaders challenged federal authority in highly publicized ways. They note that such moments often mark turning points in the balance of power between states and the federal government. In this case, Newsom's boldness may encourage other governors to speak more freely about their interactions with Washington. If that happens, Trump's team could find itself fending off criticism not just from Democrats, but from members of his own party who feel sidelined or deceived. Some Republican governors have privately expressed frustration over inconsistent messaging from the White House, particularly regarding federal funding and policy enforcement. Newsom's move may give them the confidence to speak up as well. Behind the scenes, the tension has begun affecting key relationships within the administration. Reports suggest that internal communications have tightened significantly since the interview, with senior officials being instructed to limit external contact and report any unusual requests for information. The atmosphere in the West Wing is described as one of suspicion and caution, with aides watching each other's words carefully. The fear of leaks has turned ordinary meetings into exercises in controlled language and political survival. This environment of mistrust only reinforces the narrative that Newsom touched a nerve, exposing vulnerabilities that the administration would rather keep hidden. Public polling following the controversy shows a noticeable shift in perception. While opinions remain divided along party lines, independents appear to be swaying slightly toward Newsom's side, viewing his statement as an act of courage rather than partisanship. Political analysts say that even a small movement in this demographic could have major implications for upcoming elections, especially in battleground states. The broader takeaway is that voters are craving authenticity and transparency, values that Newsom has managed to project through this controversy, even if his motives are debated. Trump's media team is now reportedly preparing a counter-offensive, which includes both digital campaigns and targeted appearances on sympathetic outlets. Their goal is to shift focus away from the substance of Newsom's claims and instead frame him as a symbol of California's failures. Expect to see renewed emphasis on issues like immigration policy and crime rates as talking points meant to diminish Newsom's credibility. However, such attacks carry risk, as they may come across as defensive or desperate, reinforcing the idea that the administration feels threatened. As the story evolves, the political cost for both men remains uncertain. For Newsom, the gamble is that his boldness will elevate him as a national leader capable of confronting power directly. For Trump, it is a test of control and narrative discipline at a moment when his grip on the political landscape is being challenged from multiple directions. In the coming days, much will depend on whether any concrete evidence emerges to back up Newsom's allegations. If proof surfaces, his credibility will soar and Trump's inner circle could face serious repercussions. If not, Newsom risks being portrayed as reckless and opportunistic, though even that may not erase the impression he has already made. What is undeniable is that Gavin Newsom has once again proven his ability to dominate the political conversation. His revelation has disrupted the carefully managed image of Trump's White House and forced both supporters and critics to confront uncomfortable truths about how information is controlled and manipulated. Whether this marks the beginning of a larger movement toward transparency or simply another flashpoint in America's endless partisan wars remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: the shockwaves from Newsom's words will continue to reverberate across Washington long after the cameras stop rolling.